What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. You may recall it was last month, February 18th to be precise, that former President Jimmy Carter, the longest lived American president, at age 98, announced that he was foregoing further medical intervention and would be receiving at home hospice care, or generally known as end of life care, which obviously means that his life is drawing to a close. Now, hospice care is tricky because sometimes the person may linger for just a couple of days. Sometimes it can be weeks, months, and in the case of what was that guy named Art Buchwald? I think he was a columnist, Art Buchwald. He lasted for a couple of years in hospice care. All right, so you just never know. But the indications are that the 39th president, his health is deteriorating, and he may not be around much longer. And also seems to be an indication that it may be the 2015 cancer that has reclaimed, has come back and is claiming his life. Anyway, uh, President Biden was in California at a fundraiser, and he was talking about his recent visit to see the 39th president, whom he has known since he was a young Delaware senator supporting Jimmy Carter's 1976 presidential campaign. Biden said, quote, he asked me to do his eulogy before stopping himself from saying more. Quote, excuse me, I shouldn't say that. Carter, who at 98 is the longest lived U.S. president, announced on February 18th that he would be spending his remaining days at home receiving end of life care, foregoing further medical intervention after a series of short hospital stays. The Carter Center in Atlanta and the former president's family members have not disclosed details of his condition, though Biden alluded to Carter's 2015 cancer diagnosis and subsequent recovery. I spent time with Jimmy Carter and has finally caught up with him, but they found a way to keep him going for a lot longer than they anticipated because they found a breakthrough. And, that breakthrough was I'm assuming he's talking about the immunotherapy that was given to him back then when they found cancerous lesions on his brain. And most of us thought that he only had maybe a year left, but Jimmy Carter has managed to live for another 8 years. But maybe time is running out on the former president. Apparently it is. Um, it's going to feel, I don't know, it just seems weird because Jimmy Carter was the president I was born under. And he's been around forever. Forever. I mean, when I was born, Carter was, what, 54? 50, no, he was 55. He was 55 when I was born. So he was already a person middle-aged. And to know that he would go on for another 42, 43 years is remarkable. And, it kind of mirrors Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover was an unremarkable president. There were great hopes that he would be a great president. He won in 1928 in a landslide, won 40 states. He just pummeled Al Smith in that election. And the anticipation was that he'd be a great president. The economy was roaring and all that. But there were warning signs that the economy was headed toward an overheating factor, and the experts didn't pay attention to it. Then we went into a recession, which was October 1929 when the market crashed. And, they didn't make the necessary moves to stifle the recession, which was a big one. And that's why by 1930, what was a recession turned into a depression. And 22% at the height of the depression, 23% of Americans were out of work. So you can only imagine how many black Americans were out of work. And Hoover's popularity plummeted. And 1932, FDR destroyed him, and Hoover was seen as a failure. But Herbert Hoover would go on to live another 31 years, and he would be seen as a great humanitarian. He helped to feed those over in Europe who were famined, by war, and individuals who were famined under the genocidal regimes of, many dictators and things of that nature. Like I say, he lived to be 90 years old. Jimmy Carter was seen as a failure. Ronald Reagan destroyed him in 1980, but he's going on to have the longest post-presidency of all time, and he's rehabilitated his image. Now, is he perfect? No. Every president does some things that you can question, but we had no major wars when Jimmy Carter was president. And in many ways, he sacrificed his presidency for the safety of those hostages. He could have done some things that would have looked like he was a man of action. He could have boasted about certain things, but he wouldn't do it. He didn't want to play politics when it came to the hostages, which made him perhaps not the smartest politician, but it spoke in bounds of what type of man he was. And that's why I say that I think he was the last decent human being to be president of the United States. But, those in the White House who are actually really good people tend to be the poorest presidents. Because to be a president, you have to be a butcher. You kind of almost have to have no conscience. And Jimmy Carter had too much of a conscience to be a president. But anyway, just thought I'd drop this news to you. Tell me what you guys think.